Hello everyone. Today, when I started recording this condensed version of day-to-day activities of a Sterling B2B integrator admin, it actually went to almost like half an hour, the entire recording. So what I did is instead of creating a half an hour video, I kind of split it into two parts. So in this week's video, I'm going to take the first part, and then next 15 minutes I'm going to post it in next week so that you can digest whatever we discussed today, because it's a lot, but I tried to condense all that information into just a half an hour video. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions or any feedback based on this video. Thank you. Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is about the day-to-day activities or tasks that a Sterling B2B integrator administrator has to perform, right? Oftentimes, during a lot of interviews that I have taken, right, where we are trying to hire someone who has experience in Sterling Integrator, typically they possess pretty good knowledge, right, in respect to how to develop a map, how to configure and like develop business processes, how to navigate like the dashboard itself. But when we start discussing about the administration task, right? What kind of roles that they have performed in their previous company, right? It typically comes to a position where they might have only done some kind of like a hard stop to stop the server, and maybe uh, starting the server right after a hard stop, right? So they might be just familiar with very basic commands of how to stop and start a Sterling B2B integrator server. But when we start drilling into more depth, that's why I see there is a disconnect in respect to like what additional roles and responsibilities and what are the tools and technologies, right, that they can do or they have to do when they are wearing a hat of a Sterling integrated administrator and not a developer hat, right? So before we go into the day-to-day task and what are the tools and like the commands, all that, I wanted to kind of highlight here that typically an SI administrator or Sterling integrated administrator has to interact uh, with different infrastructure teams, different application teams, right? From a day-to-day activities standpoint. The reason is that Sterling Integrator is a integration application, right? So it is talking to different downstream and upstream applications, and uh, the infrastructure on which a Sterling Integrator application is running, that has lot of prerequisites, a lot of requirements. Like if you try to install even a Sterling integrator, you have to do proper planning, and you have to ensure on a daily basis or maybe on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, you do some kind of sanity check of the infrastructure, the server which is underlying the application, to ensure that you have um, the right set of CPU, the JDK versions, the memory allocation, storage, and all that, right? And so if you see over here, I have highlighted some of the key uh, teams, right, or stakeholders that you need to interact on a daily basis or maybe on a weekly basis as and when needed. The first one is as an administrator, you have to have a very close relationship and interaction with your development team, who are developing different kind of artifacts within your Sterling integrator, maybe in a test or a dev environment, and then they are doing a lot of testing. So you need to ensure that everything is like you basically like oversee all that, right? Because you don't want some code, right, goes into production and it impacts the overall performance of the application, which is going to impact the entire application as well as all the connectivity, all the external and the internal systems, right? So definitely you need to work closely with your dev team. The second team that you would be interacting is your production support team, right? Like the production support team are typically responsible for different kind of like issues that come in a production, like let's say some kind of BP failure or business process failure, or maybe some kind of translation failure. So there are different kind of failures that may happen within the application on runtime, and they probably like the application is integrated with some kind of ticketing system, right? Like ServiceNow or Jira, something like that, and or some kind of email notification where you are getting all these errors, and the production support team is actually debugging all those, like trying to identify the root cause and fixing them. So definitely is very key, right? That an administrator oversees and also ensures that like he is kind of having that relationship with the production support team to ensure that those issues are fixed appropriately, as well as sometimes the failures are not related to the code or the way the end-to-end flow is architected or like developed, but maybe from an infrastructure standpoint, like sometimes the infrastructure is causing the application related workflows to fail, right? So it's like vice versa, right? So definitely is very key, right? The third team is the infrastructure team. Now, when I say infrastructure team, it has a lot of subcategories. Like, let's say your application is running on Unix, right? Team. So you need to definitely work closely with the Unix team, right? You need to work with the networking team. You need to work with like for definitely for different kind of firewalls and networks settings. You need to work closely with the security team. So there are multiple layers within the infrastructure team. I've just given high level like infra team. Vendor team, right? Vendor team is like, let's say you have different external as well as internal business units, right? Okay, like different business units are receiving or sending files through your Sterling B2B integrated application. So definitely having like if they don't receive a file at certain point of time, okay, where they're anticipating those files to come, and then there should be some, maybe there are some back-end processes that kicks off when the files comes into that particular location, right? And if the file doesn't arrive, definitely they probably would raise a ticket to your Sterling integrated application team, right? Or they reach out to you or your product support team. So definitely liaising with different business unit related teams and vendor teams, both internal as well as external, right? Like I'm just giving an example of internal. It can be an external system who is trying to send or receive files and they don't receive it. They might reach out to the support team, right, to see okay what's going on, okay, why they haven't received the file and all that, right? So it is across the board. Now the fifth one is IBM support. So definitely like if there is any product related issue, right, or you need some hot fixes, you are seeing some kind of challenges in respect to like the archival process or the purge process, right, to clean up some of the older logs as well as older files from the system is not working properly. You have some orphan records in the database, right? The database keeps growing and there's some issue that you need to work closely with the product team. Definitely like opening tickets like we call it as like PMR, right, with IBM to engage the product team to help you like, and then it might go into like, okay, we need to give a hot fix or a patch or something like that, right? So definitely having that relationship with the IBM support team. the the sixth one is around incident management, right? So you might have a incident manager within the customer premise, right? Okay, who is ensuring that like they are adhering to different kind of like SLAs based on what kind of tickets are being raised. Like if it is a P1 ticket, it has certain SLA to ensure that the ticket is resolved within that SLA, right? And then like if there's any like SLA breached, right? So you need to explain the reason why it was not solved within that particular SLA. So, and also like So those kind of scenarios. So definitely incident management team, like you need to explain the root cause. Like maybe you need to go in a weekly meeting, explain like, okay, these are all the tickets that we have received. These are the resolution. These are the time that it took. And if there's any breach, okay, what was the reason behind it? What are the remediations? And then like what can be done moving forward to ensure that we don't breach in SLS. So definitely that incident management piece is also critical. Last but not the least is the governance, right? Like, uh, and when I say governance, it's mostly like working closely with the change management team, right? Like when you're trying to push a code, right, or a bunch of business processes, maps, as a bundle, right? So you need to ensure that the change management process, like everything is being tested, all the test results are documented, and like you have proper backup plans, right, as part of the change. If something goes wrong, like how do you quickly back up to the previous version to bring the application at a more stable situation. So like governance and like we're talking to and working with closely with the change management, that's kind of important, right? Now moving forward, right, from a day-to-day activity standpoint, I've just highlighted here an example. So typically when you log in like as an administrator with your administrative login ID and password, you on a daily basis, you might want to go and check under the administration menu. Okay, you have operations, systems, and then cluster. And then over there, when you check the node status, here I have highlighted, like if you see in this example, there are a couple of nodes like node 1 and node 2, right? And then you have adapter containers, like there are a couple of adapter containers running with node 1, and then there's a couple of adapter containers in node 2, right? And if you see I've highlighted in yellow color, right, like the token node is true for node 1 here. That means that it's the primary node, right? Like they are clustered, right? There's a load balancing that is happening, right? So processes are running in both the nodes simultaneously, but node 1 is holding the token node, right? Okay, so typically what happens is that what is the meaning of token node is like when node 1 goes down, right, or node 1 is not responsive for some network related issues or something like that, right? Typically the token node is basically goes to node 2. Node 2 acquires the token node, right? So and then when node 1 comes back up, okay, and maybe node 2 is having issues, so they kind of like it's kind of a heartbeat check, right? So based on like who is responding, typically node 1 takes the precedence. But if node 1 is not uh, responding, or for some reason it has gone down or went inactive state, like if you see the status, that's critical. You need to ensure that the status is all are active. If you see anywhere like the status is inactive or terminated, stuff like that, okay, you need to go into log into those boxes, right, log into those servers and see, like looking into a log file, what went wrong, why suddenly the node went down, right? You might get some email alerts, like if you have scheduled accordingly, right, to notify you if something goes down. But also like as a proactive measure, you definitely go and check here within the dashboard to kind of get a glimpse of all the node and their health, right? uh, Now in Sterling B2B Integrator, it's not only about processing your day-to-day transactions, which can be a very high volume, but also ensuring that all the older processes, right, the older files and everything is also getting cleaned up, right? Either getting archived and then purged, or it might be purged directly, right? Based on like how many days worth of data that you want to keep within the system for from a tracking standpoint, right? And it can vary. Like typically, I've seen that customers wants to keep like 30 days worth of data, and then everything beyond that, okay, either they archive maybe for another like 60 days or maybe a quarter, like 90 days, and then maybe after that they want to purge it completely. Or there might be like, okay, after 30 days, okay, we don't see that someone reaching out mentioning, okay, I've sent a file which has been sent like more than a month older, and then you go and back and troubleshoot, like, and you don't find that, like, so typically, so based on those kind of like things, okay, you have like a certain purging policy, and based on that you set up accordingly within the application. So definitely, like these are typically the system cleanup processes, right, that is running behind the scenes. But as an administrator, you need to be aware of like what is the what is backup service doing, right? What is the meaning of index processes, right? And then what is purge service? What is external purge, internal purge, right? You need to understand those like specific topics, right, within the purge service, right? What is the difference between internal purge? What is the meaning of external purge? When do you want to use external purge versus internal purge, right? And these all are out there, like if you want to do more digging. Okay, I don't want to go into more detail, but definitely like the Sterling B2B integrator documentation has more details around that. External purge is more robust, right? It has like multiple threads it runs, and like it is more faster. It runs like even if your application is down, the external purge can keep running and then like cleaning up their older files, whereas internal purge is more of like attached to the application itself, because external purge runs on a separate JVM typically, right? Versus the JVM where the application is running, right? So I'm just giving a very high level. I'm not going more into the depth of it. You need to understand what is BP recovery, right? All those. So these are some of the cleanup processes. You need to check their sanity, and typically what you do is like you go in the same like troubleshooter page within the dashboard, and there's a cleanup process monitor. You need to check like when is the last run. Like if you see over here, if you see any particular process, right, out of all this cleanup process, the last run is like pretty old and not recent, okay, definitely there is something going wrong, right? You need to then go and identify why probably the backup service has done maybe last it has done like 48 hours ago, right? What was the reason? Typically they run every day, right? So those kind of things. So as an administrator, you need to ensure that you are keeping an eye on the cleanup processes to ensure that proper health of the system, right?